Hey, welcome everybody to How to Be a Texan. How you guys doing?
It's a new decade.
Happy new decade.
Yeah.
Happy 2020.
It's the Roaring 20s.
And we got our little
is.
buddy back.
Yeah.
Andrew.
I don't like that.
Well, no, we did 3 or 4, and you weren't with us, and it was terrible.
I don't know. One of them, we talked for about 5 minutes about how much we missed Andrew at the very beginning. You remember that?
Yeah, it was awful. But we got him back now, and he's just a good young man. Just blessed to have Andrew with us. And hey, happy 2020, Kevin.
Yeah, happy 2020.
How does it feel to be a Texan in 2020?
It's crazy.
Yeah?
It's the Roaring 20s already.
It's the Roaring 20s,
I can't
baby.
say roaring.
Roaring.
Roaring. That's
Yeah.
hard for me to say.
No, do you think we're going to have another Roaring 20s
I think
again?
so. Yeah, I do.
We're going to go back to flapping?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's already a thing.
And what was the you can't have alcohol anywhere?
Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
And the Great Depression. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
And the dust...
It's something to look forward to.
The Dust Bowl.
Dust Bowl, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Starvation and migration of workers west.
No, I'd more like the fun parts of the Roaring 20s.
Yeah. Versus, you remember the end scene of The Grapes of Wrath? I won't... Spoiler alert if you haven't read The Grapes of Wrath.
I've read it. John Steinbeck is my favorite author of all time.
Yeah, well, I think he's one of mine too, except he's so stinking dark. But The Grapes of Wrath ended with this starving man sucking on the teat of a woman who just had a stillborn birth.
I thought you said not a spoiler alert.
That was the darkest ending.
That is a very dark ending.
You could ever imagine.
So that's how you picture this next
So that's
decade.
the Roaring 20s.
That's going to be the end of this next decade.
of you sucking on the teat of
Me?
a poor...
Oh,
Well, I'm
it's
just
not gonna be me.
thinking. Okay, fine. Let's hope that the Roaring 20s of 2020 are better than the Roaring 20s of 1920s.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, good.
I have
good.
a question for y'all. So,
What was the name of that dance, though, they used to do? That funny dance. You know
swing
where they...
dancing?
No, they'd kind of
The
go...
Charleston?
The Charleston. That was a funny
know.
dance.
That was a good one back in the 1920s.
Kendra's doing the Charleston right now. It's incredible. It's
Now-
coming back.
Where's Sammy at?
For a
She
lot of-
knows about all these
For a lot
dances.
of New Year's parties this year, a lot of people did like 1920s themed parties.
Oh.
Is
So
that
my
the
question for y'all is, do y'all think in the 1920s, whenever like they had their New Year's parties then, like going into 1920, do you think that they dressed up like the 1820s?
Probably.
Just like in dirty old rags and
Yeah.
that's how I imagine everybody in the 1800s
Yeah.
dresses.
Or,
Just dirty rags and like they all work on railroads
They
in
all-
the 1800s.
or like, would you just dress up like you had like the Black Death, you know? Because that was the 1820s.
Yeah.
You know, like
the Black
was it-
Plague.
Yeah, that.
Is
That
what you're
happened in
talking
the 1820s?
I have no idea.
Oh,
It was
okay.
back in the
Black
day.
Death.
Back in the day, Black Death.
Black Plague, yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again.
As opposed to the White Plague.
I don't know. I'm gonna do an 1820s party.
1820s.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be just
you-
a plague.
Well, you'd have to dress up as an Apache or a Kiowa if you're it's Texas. 1820s or a Spaniard. Santa Ana.
You would have...
Santa Ana's granddaddy.
1820s is like when cocktails were really like legit.
Cocktails?
Yeah, before ice. Like they didn't really have ice a lot. And so go back and look at some of
everything
those
was just-
recipes. Yeah.
Maybe I'll drink some lukewarm cocktail.
Everything was just served neat.
I was thinking when you say cocktail, back in 1820, it was just like a rooster, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
So was oil discovered in Texas in the 1920s?
No,
Oh.
not
Okay.
at all. I don't know what we're talking about. I have no idea where we're going with this, but it doesn't have anything to do with the topic.
Oh, I thought we could tie it in somehow.
There's no tie. There's no tie at all. But speaking of sperm oil, sperm whale.
Please stop saying that.
So it's the oil.
Nobody
from
said
the
anything about that. Nobody said anything about that.
So
Not on the episode, at least.
so sperm whales, we would kill them. Right, we would harpoon and kill them, and then we would
Harvest their sperm.
No, well, you could, I suppose. That'd be odd. And,
Well,
and
the
breed
whole
them.
thing's odd.
Well, anyway, the sperm whales, they were.
Why are they even called that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Who came up with that name?
Jesus, I don't know.
No, Jesus did not.
I don't know the answer to that. But regardless, sperm whale were huge and plentiful back in the day. In the 1850s, there that was 1850s and before in Texas. That was the prevalent way that we lit our houses.
From whale blubber, basically.
Whale blubber converted into whatever, some land.
I did not know that.
And then in 1852, there was a discovery. Somebody, and before that, remember we used to have the medicine men, and they'd go around. These shysters would go around and sell on the frontier, this kind of snake oil. Remember we talked about that before?
Yeah.
And that was a petroleum-based product where it was liniment that they would rub on their whatever, skin for healing. And that was really all we knew. So you didn't need, if you had a petroleum gusher, black oil coming up, like Jed Clampett, then
Listen to my story about a man.
See?
Named Ed, a poor mountaineer, barely kept
I love
his
the
family fed.
Clampetts.
And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground
Come a bubbling crude oil, that
That
is.
is black gold, Texas tea.
Texas tea.
Well, the first
That's
thing
right.
You know, old Jed's
I love how he's shooting at some food and then oil just springs up out of the ground.
That's right. I like how that he references Texas tea, though.
I know, exactly.
But regardless.
That's the amount of research I did for this episode.
Thank you.
So, after that, you're on your own.
That's terribly valuable. So anyway, hey, today's episode, just to reset, today's episode, we're going to talk about the oil boom in Texas and its impact on us even today. Is that okay with you?
Oh, yeah. Sounds
And-
like a great topic.
And I just thought it was kind of a fun aside going back to the sperm whale, just because it's fun.
Just because you like saying that word.
Sperm.
Because it makes everybody else uncomfortable.
Just like go back and listen to the motel episode because I said the word pubic hair probably 28 times.
Yeah,
And
no.
that was the biggest surprise shock I got out of Kevin ever, which was awesome.
No. The smoked cigarettes have chicken fried steak and drink beer. That's a big shocker, too.
Yeah,
was pretty shocking.
I think so.
Smoke
But
some cigarettes, have some chicken fried steak, and then drink some beer.
And you can hear me in the background saying, smoke some cigarettes.
yeah, I've smoked one in my life with some fraternity brothers. But regardless, so the oil boom and its impact on Texas. So regardless, 1850s and on, there was a discovery of taking petroleum that literally Jed Clampett found out of the ground. And there was a science experiment done, and we figured out how to convert that into kerosene. And then that became wildly popular because it was so much cheaper to be able to illuminate our houses with kerosene versus this blubber. Because that was getting terribly expensive, as you can only guess. And then then there was amazing revelations and scientific experiments that came on after that, and that's how we found all these alternative uses for petroleum. So then the secondary kind of big oil boom came up in Pennsylvania in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of the 1800s. And finally, in 1901, that's when Spindletop blew. There were a couple of different. Spindletop is down around Beaumont, which is in southeast Texas. And so when you think of southeast Texas, what do you think of? You generally think of kind of oilish types, petroleum products.
That's what they do.
Yeah, because there's so many stinking refineries, and Houston's really known for oil. It's kind of the oil capital of North America, and it's huge. And so Spindletop was found in 1901, January 10th of 1901, and then it just that was it. And the interesting thing was the first funders of it, they originally basically petered out, and they're like, we're never going to hit anything because we would get about 30 or 40 feet down underground and we'd hit rock. And then nobody could figure out. I was like, well, crap, I guess we just need to quit. Well, anyway, these people would just kind of keep moving around and they'd find a way through. There was an initial theory that there was a salt cap. Remember we talked about the salt mines out in East Texas as well with Morton Salt? Well, that's there too. But then there's petroleum up under the salt dome. How crazy is that? And all petroleum is, and I'm watching this 5-part series on the history of oil in North America, which is actually terribly geeky but terribly interesting for me. And all petroleum is, do you know what petroleum is?
I know it comes from fossils somehow.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I don't know.
It's basically, it's
So
carbon material,
Yeah.
like organic material that's just died, and then it's basically formed into a different product, and it's
It's
so
goo.
Goo. or instead of rock, it's formed into kind of this gooey whatever petroleum-based product. Now there's a couple of different forms. There's the natural gas product, and then there's obviously the petroleum-based product. So anyway, I'll tell you this right now, and I'll apologize to our listeners, all three of you, because we lost one over Christmas, I'm sure, because you were terrible. We had 4, now we're down to 3, I think. So regardless, anyway, thank you, 3 of you that you're listening. I apologize because I'm not an oil guy, right? Are you an oil baron?
No, not really. Not
Okay.
really.
Yeah, I'm not at all.
My granddad was in the oil industry, but he
Oh.
didn't drill. He did. He owned a manufacturing company, and they made aftermarket parts for oil
Oh,
drilling rigs.
that's cool.
Yeah, they had kind of cornered the market on that because, this is back in the 80s. You had to go to, like if your brakes broke down on your rig, on the drilling rig itself, you had to go back to the original manufacturer, and super expensive. So he created a aftermarket manufacturing facility to make brake rims and bands and all kinds of stuff. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, he did really, really well with that.
Huh, good for him.
Yeah, but that's about all I know is kind of that side of it. And
Right.
of course, my dad, his dad worked in oil fields.
Right.
I know 100 people that have worked in oil fields. I don't know what they do out there, but, managing the rigs and drilling and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
which is a very, very hard job.
It's a hard job. But we
Yeah.
got a lot of Texans that have done that and then are doing that right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
You remember our Dallas versus Houston episode where my buddy Mike was describing the perception of Houston is, a guy with his name on his shirt, working out in the oil field, that's the perception of Houston. I don't think that's necessarily true, but we got a bunch of Texans that are still working out in the oil fields.
And I usually associate that with West Texas more than Southeast.
Well, but
And I don't know why.
Yeah, but think about it. But Spindletop started it all.
It started it.
And that's in Beaumont. And so now you think, and outside of Beaumont,
Mm-hmm.
but you think, and there's all that oil. And when you look at a map of Texas, I wish you guys could see this because I've looked at this map of all the oil reserves under Texas, and it's massive. It's almost like the whole state is just peppered with all these reserves that are under the ground. Now, various levels of how far deep they are, but we're the absolute biggest producer of natural gas in the world. And so my neighbor Kathy, she's in the oil business. Kathy and Patrick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and they just had a cow. I was over there watching. They just had the
Yeah.
baby cow. It's really cool. Well, I was waiting. I was late because I was waiting for the little baby to get up, but it wouldn't get up. So it's just that's a quick mini ranch update. But Kathy just had a baby cow. And I mean,
So we should have had her on to talk about
we
this.
should have because
Yeah.
it would be far more entertaining and interesting because she actually knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Because she actually works for all this and sends people out to drill and whatnot.
I do know there's a lot of science involved, and they hire a lot of geologists to understand all the rocks and what's going on underground
That's
and
right.
where to go drill. And,
Well-
back in the day, like you were talking about, they just kind of had to randomly go and poke holes in the ground. And now it's very scientific. They know where everything's at, what they can get through and what they can't.
So I think Kathy's third generation in the oil business.
Yeah.
And her grandfather had an article that she found, I think, when he passed. And she was just telling me about this, that the article that he said is, here's the best prospecting for us, is that you drill 5 drill sites, and you're going to get oil in one of those. So just keep drilling.
Oh, I see.
That was the science.
Right,
Is
right,
You've got
right.
you're going to hit 1 in 5.
Yeah.
So just
go
keep
do
on,
it.
keep
Yeah.
poking the earth, and you're going to eventually hit.
Yeah.
That's the science.
I think there's still some of that has to go on too,
Yeah. Well, I don't know because of all the computerization and all the sonar that we have now, and then with the the sideways, the angle drilling,
Horizontal drilling.
Yeah, all that. I think there's amazing technology now, 119 years after the initial giant Texas find, that and now it'll continue to get better and better.
Yeah.
Now we'll be far more specific, and there's a lot of recoverable oil and then a lot of non-recoverable.
What does that mean?
Well, like the non-recoverable is like it's built. All these oil pockets are built. The petroleum pockets are built into existing rock that you just can't.
Can't get through it
You
today.
can't. It's not worth it to get to.
Yeah.
And I guess as oil becomes more and more precious over time, maybe it's worth going back to those really finite, tiny little pockets. But right now, they're looking for the big pockets they can go and suck, hundreds of millions of barrels of oil out.
It's just crazy to me to think about how much is under the ground here.
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing. You know?
So then that gets into this whole, how old is it, and I don't know. I don't ever get into that with people because it's like, oh, it's hundreds of millions of years old or it's 4,000 years. I'm like, okay, I don't get into that with people.
Well, you mean like how old the Earth is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
I think we got pretty strong evidence that it's...
I know, but if you talk to different theologians, they get into you about, well, it's only 5,002 years old. I'm like, it looks like it's 100 million years old.
That's
Maybe God has a different time.
Few billion. Yeah, we know God's on his own timeline.
Yeah, I think versus ours.
A few billion.
Regardless, anyway, I won't get into that. But,
Well, we do know that Texas used to be under an ocean. We've talked about that a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the prehistoric times. And I think, I mean, is that why there's so much oil here?
I don't know. I don't know. Yes.
You're supposed to be the subject matter expert on this show.
I told you, I'm an idiot on this stuff. All I know is the oil boom is huge, and it's created who we are as Texans. It's a huge part of Texas.
Yeah.
So January 10th, 1901 is a kind of a singular date in Texas history because that's when Spindletop was hit. Before then, we were an agricultural environment. I mean, first of all, think about 1901. All the crap we've talked about so far with the frontier and all the Texas Rangers and the Comanches and the Apaches and all that was settling out. The Civil War had settled 35 years before. All the carpetbaggers are going away. So Texas is kind of finding itself in 1901. And then we kick it into a whole new gear then with oil because we'd been all about the cow, with ranching. We'd been all about cotton and all of our agricultural folks of growing whatever, and then the homemade crops. And then all of a sudden you have this oil boom. And remember, that was one of the things that our Texas Rangers they had a really hard time of handling because we had this mass inundation of people after 1901 that we had all these Texas Rangers out there, and they were basically covering the frontier, and then they transitioned into kind of police and detective work. And then you have these, tens of thousands of interlopers that are coming from the Northeast and wherever because they're like, holy crap, we got all this oil sitting under Texas. Let's go get it.
Mm-hmm. So there were people coming down here to start businesses to drill it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm sure there were just lots of people coming down here just for jobs, to work in the oil fields, right?
Or to make their own, as Jed Clampett made it, Texas tea, I mean, there were lots and lots and lots of millionaires all of a sudden because we're able to export that out, and then we're finding use for the car once Henry Ford and whatnot found the Model T and all that. Then you've got, airplanes, cars, all this, this need for petroleum-based products. And then the sky was the limit because there were plenty of other pockets of oil and petroleum products from around the country, but Texas was by far the richest oil reserve.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? So then the interesting thing was, and we've talked about this before, and I'm not going to put you to sleep with the Texas budget, but there's this fund called the PUF Fund, the PUF Fund, and hold on. And it's called the Permanent University Fund. And it was created back in 1876, and all of this was dedicated so that UT and Texas A&M would have sustainable income for their endowments of their professors and whatnot. So a lot of these lands were all donated into the PUF, the Permanent University Fund, and then the reserves that are kicked out of that were immense. Let's put it that way. Before it had just been, they'd been leasing that land for steers and cattle and whatnot and cotton farming, whatever. And then once they got all that, these are millions of acres that were dedicated to UT and A&M. And then now all of a sudden they had all the minerals underneath it and they were getting that out. Now, if you look at it right now, the assets that we have under management for the PUF, it's, let me see, in 90, it was like $8 billion. But I think it's way more than that. I can't find it. But it kicks off $300, $400, $500 million of income every year. Can you imagine that? Just $400 million of income every year.
So why don't we have free college here in Texas?
We should have free college in Texas. What's going on?
Should.
What the crap? So anyway, yeah. So I mean, it's a huge part of what we do as Texans, and I just thought it was kind of interesting to talk about Spindletop. And the funny thing was, if you look at kind of YouTube of Spindletop, of course they didn't have cameras back in 1901, but the descriptions by the workers back in the day, they got below that 30 feet, and they got down to about 56 to 60 feet, and that's where they hit it. And there was this massive oil reserve underneath it. And it sounded like a locomotive coming when they hit it, and all of a sudden they hear it, and all these workers are, they're just standing there just drilling away, trying to get, and somehow they hit a soft spot, and they got through that rock at 30 feet, and they got all the way down to 56 to 60 feet, which is really not that far. I mean, it's right there. And sure enough, it just sounded like a locomotive. And it took them, I think, 5 days to cap it, just to cap. And it was about, I don't know, I'm holding my hands about a foot apart. And it was about a foot wide, shot of petroleum coming out of the ground.
Really?
And it took them that long to cap it. So
Wow.
they had to put all the technology of the day back into place to cap it and then somehow funnel it into production.
Now, when did they start doing the offshore drilling stuff?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I should know that. But again, if I was an oil guy, I would know. Hey, did I ever tell you that story about how me and my buddy Mark would go deep sea
I'm going
fishing?
to tell you a couple of stories.
There's only one story, but it's 8 years. Me and my buddy Mark, we went deep sea fishing with this group of like 15 to 20 guys off of Port Aransas. You know where Port Aransas is? Mm-hmm. So it's a beautiful spot down on the Texas coast. And so we'd go down and we all meet up at Port A. And then we'd get with this outfit, and they'd take us 15 to 20 guys, and we'd go out for 24 hours. And we'd go 80 miles down to the Gulf of Mexico, and we'd fish, and we'd catch over a ton of fish. Now, the interesting part that relates back is at night, the captain would say, "You guys want a shark hunt?" And we're like, yeah, that sounds fun. So we would go tie up to these big oil rigs. And so we would tie up to one of these legs are massive. Mm-hmm. And so these out of the 4 legs that go down to the sea bottom, out of each of those legs creates an ecosystem around it. So you've got the actual metal leg, and then you've got whatever stuff that's growing around it, and you get the feeder fish around it, the bigger predators, and then even the biggest predators, which are the shark. And we would hunt for the sharks at night, deep, deep night. That was the creepiest thing ever, because you hear these. They go ping, these real loud, creepy pings that they make off at the middle of the night.
And then what do you do with them?
Well, we'd eat them. We'd catch the shark and we'd eat them.
How big were they?
Giant, massive.
Full of crap.
Big as this house. They were massive. No, I mean, 200-300 pounds, 400 pounds. I mean, the biggest one we ever caught was a hammerhead, but we caught him a day.
Yeah.
And he was about 12, 13.
So y'all caught him, you brought him in.
The captain shot him in the face, with a 9mm, because it was so aggressive. They'd get up on the boat, you'd double gaff and bring it up, and they'd flail around. You know what a shark's skin feels like?
It's like sandpaper.
It's like sandpaper.
Yeah.
They'll just immediately take your skin right off.
Yeah, I felt a couple of those before. You remember feeling those, Andrew?
Yeah.
We went to an aquarium on vacation one year.
Oh, really?
And they had these tiny little sharks that you could, the kids could stick their hand in there and rub them. And it felt just like sandpaper.
Oh, it's sandpaper.
Yeah.
So if you caught it, and so we had plenty of us that would be there, we'd help them get the shark into the boat, and they'd be flailing around, and all of a sudden you got all these guys with massive strawberries all down their legs.
Wow.
Anyway.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
So back to the oil thing. I was just, looking here.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Texas Rainy Day Fund, now it's really a $12 billion balance, and that's all basically oil and Texas natural gas. I apologize. It's called the Texas Rainy Day, and we talked about that on our infrastructure episode.
I didn't realize this. Houston really pioneered the entire American car culture, is what this says here.
Really?
Yeah, in the early 1900s, because they had such inexpensive gasoline down there.
Oh.
Because of the oil and the refineries.
When did the Model T get invented?
I'll find out in a second. But this says by the 1920s, traffic congestion had become so serious in Houston that they became the first city in the nation to install interconnected traffic lights.
Oh, wow.
And, it said visitors would come to the city. They were astonished at the lack of pedestrian access to shopping venues and stuff like that. Because if you think about it, at the time, they still had roads that were built for, think about what roads were originally built for. I've read some books on this, right? For walking. Like if you think about all those Old West movies, right? You got people walking out in the middle of the road, and then basically you'd step up on a porch and walk into a building.
Right.
So there was this period, kind of in the early 1900s, where suddenly these roads were flooded with cars, right? And you didn't have anywhere for pedestrians to walk anymore,
That's
so it was
right.
just kind of chaos.
Wow.
Yeah. So it affected everything if you think about it.
Is that when they all just got on their phone and became obese?
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it played out. No, they went to the moon first.
Nice.
But think about Houston, man. So they pioneered the car culture, right? And then within 69 years later, or really 68 years later, they shot a man to the moon from Houston. It's not very long.
Houston, man. Houston's awesome.
They discovered the fuel, and then
I'm telling you, Houston leads the world. Good dog cussing Houston. Houston rocks.
I'm
they're
coming around.
They're awesome, but why they so nasty?
Yeah,
down
why are they so
there?
nasty down there? That's all.
They're not. Hey, the Texans won, so there you go. Hey, couple of fun facts. Did you know that we have about 352,000 jobs in Texas that are just oil and gas industry based?
Is that all? I thought there'd be more.
It feels like it would be larger than that to
Yeah.
me. What do you think is the typical depth for a whatchamacallit, a drill site now? So let me give you some fun facts, and then you tell me what we're at now. In 1949, so Spindletop was 56, 60 feet, so it was like right there. Now, in 1949, the average depth of a well site was 3,635 feet.
Really?
What do you think it is now with fracking? Fracking is that
Fracking's horizontal.
is that diagonal, whatever, horizontal, crazy stuff that we can do now. What do you think the average drilling is now?
I don't know. 5,000 now?
Keep going.
I'm gonna guess
10,000?
Nope, 6,000.
6,000?
6,064
Oh, I was gonna
feet.
guess 7.
You're close.
How deep is the center of the earth?
It's 6,500 feet.
So we're right there.
I have no idea.
We're sucking out magma.
We're just sucking it straight out of China. China?
Yeah, we're stealing the oil from China now.
Google that. How thick is the Earth's crust?
I have no idea, Andrew. Google knows, but I don't know.
That's why he was suggesting that you Google
Is
it.
that Alexa still over there?
Hey, Alexa, tell us how far to China through the Earth?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. She doesn't know. So
Earth's crust is 6,371 kilometers, which is 3,958 miles. So it's pretty big.
that's freaking big.
We've barely scratched the surface.
We can go way deeper until we hit magma.
Well,
Isn't there
but
magma in there somewhere?
There is down in the, and then there's a core that's solid iron.
Iron?
Mm-hmm.
And then magma around that? Mm-hmm. So weird. So weird.
And then once you get through all that, then you get to China.
China.
So I don't think we'll be able to drill all the way through and suck out the oil from the China or Middle East anytime soon.
No, I don't think
That'd be a
so.
good trick, though.
That'd be the ultimate frack.
That probably should have been one of Trump's campaign platform themes. We're going to drill so deep. We're going to suck all the oil out of the Middle East.
Oh, my God.
Campaign will be called "What the Frack."
I will tell you, though, I'm watching this, like I said, I'm watching this 5-part series on the history of oil. That's really interesting. There's all these, like a Forbes article, there's this New Yorker article. There's some really interesting stuff on just oil's impact on Texas and Texas' impact on the world when you look at all the oil reserves and the petroleum reserves under the ground that we have at our disposal. And then you have the question of, well, why are we so reliant on Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, whatever, on our petroleum products when we have that in North America, offshore, Alaska, et cetera? I think it's a great question. And then you look to the future about how petroleum based are we going to be in the future? And I think that's a great question.
How is it that they can produce it so much cheaper over there? I mean, that's why we import it, right? Because it was cheaper.
That's right. And it may be, I don't know, is that one of those human laws things about we can create a factory in Pakistan that's and have slave labor basically versus here?
I mean, I don't think we were doing that. I think they had their own refineries over there, and we were importing oil from them.
But it's like you just don't
just
pay.
Cheap labor.
You just don't pay for labor.
People. Yeah.
Yeah, all you're paying for is just the equipment and pennies on the dollar for
Maybe
labor.
that's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, that's my only guess, but I don't know that. It
Yeah.
feels like it's much cheaper, and that's such a commodity that is so price dependent. Mm-hmm. We've had oil booms and oil busts because of the price of oil per barrel.
Right.
It's gone up and down. It feels like it's just very wild. And then there's OPEC that has, their control over the ability to flow out millions of barrels per day.
Yeah, so they manipulate the price completely.
It feels that way.
No, they do. They
Yeah.
absolutely do.
And that's why I think back even in the days of Reagan and whatnot, it's like we want to build up our North American reserves so that we're not so reliant on OPEC because we have no control or influence over their price setting. And so we're a prisoner to them.
So are we now producing more than we're importing at this point?
I don't know the answer to that. It feels like we're in a little bit more of an equilibrium, but I don't know that at all. I just know that was a big deal during W's deal, and probably now Trump too.
Yeah.
Is that we want to create enough North American reserves so that we have less reliance if there's an outbreak of whatever bad things in the Middle East.
Which we're seeing
as
of this week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. If they turn the
it's
spigot
so
off.
unstable over there. Yeah.
But then even that, the common issue of the day may be, trouble in the Middle East. But if we have this conversation 20 years from now, are we still heavily reliant on petroleum products?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I think we're still I don't know. I just don't know. Are we advancing that quickly that we're to the point where we're not going to be relying on petroleum-based products at all? I just don't know.
I think 20 years from now, we will be minimally dependent on it as it relates to automobiles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's lots of other stuff that
You think so?
I mean, have you ever heard of an electric airplane? No. I mean, and that burns tons and tons of petroleum-based fuel.
Yeah, and then you just think of the level of adoption. So the first world countries will adopt battery-powered or whatever, solar-powered, or wind-powered, anything. But will the rest of the planet, at that point, will be at 10 to 12 billion
That's a good
people.
point, yeah.
Okay, the first 2 billion in the first world countries, but the other 8 billion could give a flip.
No, you're right. When you said we, I was kind of honed in on the U.S., but you're right. I mean, the rest of the world. But in those third world countries, do they really drive as much as we do? Does everybody own 2 or 3 cars there? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
People still, walking and...
I just hope in 20 years that people look at each other and smile at each other and create positive endorphins more than they do today because they're all looking at their phones.
Oh, that'll happen, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, because the phone will be installed in your face at that point.
I think it'll be a brain chip.
Yeah. So you'll literally look at each other,
And I'll be analyzing.
And I'll see a virtual Kyle. I won't even see the real Kyle. I'll see a virtual Kyle.
My Terminator eyes are going to be assessing your threat level at all time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. I look forward to having a brain implant.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
That's cool.
No, it's not going to happen.
It might.
No.
In movies, it does.
I know, in movies it does.
I think that's cool. What do you think, Andrew?
I don't know.
Okay. Hey, well, we got any interesting ranch updates?
Sorry,
Green Acres is the place.
You know what? I think I have these backwards on the soundboard because this says Green Acres Short.
Well, that was tremendously long.
Yeah, let's.
It wanted.
I think this is really the long version. See, this is the long. All right, sorry.
No, it's
Just
fantastic.
having fun.
No,
This is the Roaring 20s, man.
We're having fun here. We're having fun here.
Ranch updates. Well, our horses have gotten a lot of exercise over the holidays.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Y'all been riding?
That's generally when the girls get out there. Well, Sarah hasn't done much, but
Good.
Sammy's been riding. Yeah. I mean, you notice Doc's dropped a few pounds, so we need to
He's skinny.
beef him back up a little bit.
Yeah, no, he looks good.
He's actually had some exercise.
Good.
So, what else? Now we're still just kind of smoothing along outside of that.
Yeah, you plant your winter crop in your garden yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
all over that.
Liar.
No, but Kendra's already planning for spring.
Oh, that's good.
So I got to build new beds and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
good.
Get ready. Yeah,
Okay.
she's already put that on my list.
Okay, good.
So we'll see.
Yeah. No, we've got. I put ryegrass out in the arena. I dug it when Caroline went off to college. I just tore the arena down. No. Yeah, and I put ryegrass all out there. It looks nice. It's pretty.
Oh, man.
Then I'm gonna plant some spring kind of grass. I can convert it back to an arena in a second if I ever wanted to. But I don't.
What'd you do with all the sand?
It's all sitting there. Most of it washed down Gibbons, my street.
It did not.
Most of those 20 loads of sand washed all the way down Gibbons. It did too. I'm telling you, it all washed down there. But regardless, it's kind of greenish now. But you see the arena under there, kind of.
Yeah.
And then, the chickens. Amy gave me 4 chickens for Christmas. That's nice.
Really? I didn't know that.
A certificate for 4
A
chickens.
certificate for food. Like a chicken gift card?
Yeah, so she went and she gave Rex Jr. $100 for $25 each for 6-month-old plus chickens that they'll come to the house, peck each other with the old chickens, and then they should start laying right away.
So why didn't she just get them? Or
He didn't have
just
any
not convenient?
6-month-old. He didn't have any
Oh,
6-month-old.
okay.
Yeah. And then I've been using eggs out of the chickens like crazy. I had to buy my first dozen eggs ever, in 6 years.
Dude, you should have called us. We got a whole refrigerator full of eggs.
Oh, because I'm on this baking thing now.
Yeah, we got 1 billion eggs.
Yeah, so I've been baking like crazy.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah. That's so fun. So ever since the pecan
You just don't
episode-
eat anything.
No, ever
You
since
bake all this stuff and you don't eat it.
I just bring it over here to y'all.
Yeah.
So ever since the pecan episode on Thanksgiving, remember when I talked about the pecans, how Mimi would place them on the top, and I started all my science. To me, it's just a science experiment. It's like, how does science work? Well, in cooking. And so I baked all the crap ton of pies, and now I've flipped over to cakes, and I made my second big cake yesterday, which was awesome. German chocolate cake. But I already made this tres leches over Christmas. It was crazy good. And then I made like 15 pies.
Oh, you need to take a look at my new smoker before you leave.
Oh, yeah?
I got a smoker for Christmas.
Yes.
It was so
I saw the
big.
picture. Those ribs were crazy.
Maybe you could smoke a pie.
It was so big. Kendra went to pick it up. She's going to surprise me.
Yeah?
And the guy was like, "It's not going to fit in your Honda Pilot."
Get the truck.
So she called me and I had to go up there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'll show you a picture, but it took up the whole back of my truck.
Oh, geez. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I did some ribs the other day and they turned out really nice.
Yeah, and I may have already talked about Caroline, my daughter, getting that wreck. Mm-hmm. Well, so a lot of repercussions for that. Obviously, Big Red was totaled. Caroline and the horses are fine. Bad wreck, terrible wreck, but she's fine. And so Big Red was totaled, and the big trailer, the big horse trailer, was all jacked. So it's still being repaired, but it's recoverable, so it's fine.
It can be repaired.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically they whacked off the front of it. And
Oh, and they'll put a new one on
re-welding
there?
a whole new gooseneck
Oh, yeah.
on it.
Perfect.
But
Oh,
it's-
that's great.
Yeah, and then the pump for the jack was all whatever screwed up. So that it's all you just throw money at stuff. You just throw money at stuff, and then all of a sudden it's
Better
good.
than a whole new trailer.
That's right. So a whole new truck, and the trailer is going to be fixed, and we're getting that back pretty soon. And we got her a truck, and so that's good.
Oh, was that her Christmas gift? New truck?
I guess.
Yeah?
Whatever.
What'd you get?
It's a new truck.
But I mean, what?
Well, it's a 2015 3/4 ton diesel Ram.
Oh, another Ram?
And it's got the Laramie package. It's sweet. It's
Oh, nice.
It was a Navy dad that had it only to haul his camper around. He had a fifth wheel in the back, fifth wheel, and you ought to see it. It's a 500-pound, literally it took me and the 2 boys, and it took all we had to, I unscrewed it all and put it out. It's basically what a fifth wheel hitch is what you hook like an 18-wheeler.
Oh, it
to.
had one of those in the back.
It was massive, so
Oh.
it's sitting in my garage right now. I'm trying to hawk it off because
So you took that out. Did you put the little ball?
we
on
just
it?
took it to install a gooseneck ball.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
nice.
so now we're good. We're back in business. So she's good, and so we're. I don't. What is it? Okay.
We do have a skunk that's hanging out around the
Oh.
barn area again.
Oh, well,
I saw him run and
I finished my
duck under the stalls,
I-
right under where you go into Doc's stall.
Oh,
I was on a call out there the other night, and it was kind of at dusk, and I saw this little skunk.
Oh.
They live over in this barn.
they're so cute.
They live in this barn over here with these other people, and they come over here and eat.
They're so cute.
So I see this little skunk run, and then he goes underneath the concrete.
Yep,
like where
that's what they do.
Doc's stall
That's
is.
what they do.
And I think he's eating stuff from that wood pile.
No, that's
That
what,
wood pile is like a skunk haven. Yeah,
Well,
so I
they're-
need to clean that up.
They're so stinking cute. Now I will tell you, mothballs generally work. They stink, but they generally work.
I did order some fox urine.
Oh well, that works too.
Yeah, I got a few jugs of that. I haven't got out there and sprayed it all around yet.
Well, I told
but-
you that's what I spray on my boots as I walk into bow hunt.
Yeah, yeah.
But mothballs totally work on skunks.
Yeah.
We've used that before. And then I did finish my AR-15 build.
Oh,
So if we need that, and I've
Yeah.
got the giant 1,000 lumen nightlight and a laser.
okay.
I'm just saying.
You can just sit out here and take them out, man.
Well, your neighbors might be concerned, but
Nah,
regardless,
they don't care.
I'm pretty excited about that. So there you go.
Shoot a few hawks while you're at it.
That would be good shooting tags. I don't know about all that. All right, well, hey, thank you all for listening to our episode kind of around the oil boom. We talked about a lot of things other than the oil boom, but hey, we're ready for the 20s, right?
Absolutely.
And go oil boom.
Go oil boom.
I don't know.
Well, we can't say go Cowboys because they're done.
No, they're done. But hey, go Texans.
Texans, yeah, they won yesterday.
They did great.
Yeah, they took the Bills out yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
All right. Well,
thank-
adios. Thanks for listening. Look us up. Give us a review. Enjoy the 20s.
See you later. Bye-bye.